everyone. I'm sorry for the delay. My name is Randy Aronson McCulloch. With me here is Mad Matt Winchell.
Usually the tech head.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan, and we are a group that streams Wednesday nights called an Unearthly podcast. We have been reviewing Doctor Who episodes and telling Doctor Who news now since 2012. And we've been doing GeekCon now, what, for 3-4 years? Well, most of us work on it as the podcast. Yes, we're talking
about 4 years, I think.
About 4 years. And usually we take this time to try to predict what's coming in the upcoming season, and we are going to try to do that now for Series 7. You'll note I say try. And I say this because Chris Chibnall is keeping everything close to the chest.
Yep, the tightest of tightness.
I've
never seen them be this tight-lipped in BBC.
Yeah, and I mean, I've thought previous seasons they've kept things tight, but Chibnall is keeping almost everything under tight lock. We do have some facts, and I'm going to reiterate those now. So this is what we know. Series 11 is going to begin in late September, early October. We're thinking it's going to be early October. They haven't officially released a date yet. If it's going to be late September, we should hear at the very beginning of September. If it's going to be early October, we should hear about mid-October. I mean mid-September. Mid-September. It will consist of one 65-minute episode, which is episode 1, 9 50-minute episodes, which is 2 through 10, one Christmas special, which is going to be approximately 60 minutes, and that's only based on knowledge of previous Christmas specials. That seems to be the slot the BBC gives them as a 60-minute Christmas slot. And one 5 or so minute special for children in need. That's pretty much what the season is going to be. The people involved are Chris Chibnall as the new showrunner. He's replacing Stephen Moffat. Matt Stevens is the new executive producer, and Sam Hoyle is executive producer. I don't know much about the last two, but the first one you might be familiar with. He used to be the head writer for Torchwood for season 2. He has worked on some episodes of Doctor Who, 42, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Those are, I think, his two big ones. Power of Three he also did, and the ending, the unofficial ending for Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh, I love that ending.
Yep. He is also, of course, very well known for Broadchurch, which was his big series prior to this.
Starring David Tennant.
Instead of using individual writers to write episodes, he is preferring to use a writer's pool, like they do for many shows here in the United States. That writing pool consists of Chris Chibnall, Mallory Blackman, Vanni Patel, Pete McTigg, and Joy Wilkinson. None of these people, other than Chibnall, have worked on Doctor Who previously. A couple of them have written novels or short stories.
So they might have a hint of something.
But that's it. As well as using brand new writers, pretty much everybody involved directing is new to Doctor Who. The primary director for it seems, is Jamie Childs, who is directing episodes 1, 7, 9, and 10. So the opener, the closing, and one in the middle. Mark Tonderai is episodes 2 and 3. I believe that was mostly location shooting, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Sally Apranamian is episodes 4 and 6, and Jennifer Perrott is episodes 5. Episode 8, who's directing it right now, we don't know. It is starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandy Gill as Yasmin Khan. Those are the Doctor and her companions. Jodie Whittaker, of course, was previously on Broadchurch with Chris Chibnall. As for the others, Bradley Walsh has been mostly kind of comedian talk showy in the previous years, and I do not know too much about Tosin Cole and Mandy Gill. I think they were mostly soap actors, and I think one of them might have been more stage than actual television. This does happen a lot with British programming. So, from here we go to location filming, and this is a little bit interesting. They did a lot of location filming. A lot of it was around Britain, of course, because, you know, Britain and Wales, that's where they tend to do the majority of their location filming. But they also made trips to South Africa and to Spain. And this is where we're going to start to get into speculation. Things we know about the South African filming is the fact that it seemed to be a stand-in for about mid-20th century southern United States. Based on the props and stuff that we saw, as well as the list of actors, I think it's possibly that they were doing a story involving somehow Rosa Parks. Because some of the names that were listed in the actors list matched up to people around Rosa Parks in that particular era of history. So possibly it might be a trip to the beginning of the civil rights movement. We don't know for certain. We're guessing. It also happened to have a prop that they showed which looked like the bus that Rosa Parks was on. So this does make a slight concern that we might be having British people writing about American history, because when they have done that previously, they have done it badly. In particular, a serial I was talking about before we started, The Gunfighters, tried to do the OK Corral and didn't do it too well. Mind you, that was in the 60s, and this is more up to date, so it might get a little better. But
Also, I believe another factor with that one in particular was the fact that they borrowed ideas from a movie that didn't check its facts either. So that doubly didn't help.
That's quite possible too. Hopefully they do this better. So let's go into what we kind of also know about the last 10 plus years of Doctor Who, everything since 2005. You can put it in a box, you can wrap that box up with a nice red ribbon, and then you can chuck it in the bin, because pretty much this is an entirely new production. Chibnall came in and cleaned house, and by cleaned house I mean bulldozed it over, and then proceeded to put up a whole new project development. Everything, the only people I think might be back are a couple of grips. I don't even know if Nick Briggs is still on board. That's how much they've changed.
They even got rid of Murray Gold.
Yeah, Murray Gold, the composer's gone.
Yeah, that was surprising. I mean,
I'm not too surprised. Murray Gold peaked around series 6 and 7.
yeah, but
And
still,
then the last few seasons he's done with Capaldi, I think there's only been one or two songs that really stick out to me.
He announced he was stepping down at Gallifrey this year, and it's the most emotional panel I've ever been at. It was like a complete surprise. We all sobbed.
Don't get me wrong, he's a really good artist, but yeah, it does feel like he kind of his stride, and he's now kind of like, now what do I do? So
Chibnall is on record saying that he wants this season to be more cinematic. Now, what I'm thinking about this, and based on the minute times of the episodes, is he wants it to be more like what we're seeing in Netflix and HBO programming, things like Game of Thrones and Westworld, where it's going to be basically one gigantic story arc instead of individual episodes with an ongoing theme. I suspect there's going to be subplots because, of course, there's still time travel involved. And again, this is purely speculation. Which I think when you combine the two, it's probably going to come out with something more like the CW Flash Arrowverse, in which there's this big ongoing storyline which is dealt with every single episode, but there's still a whole bunch of little stories that go on as well. I don't know how this is going to work exactly. The reason he stated that he has 3 companions is kind of a harkening back to the original, like, 1963, 1964 era of Doctor Who, where you had the Doctor and Susan and Ian and Barbara. We do know that one of the things that has been a complaint from writers that have worked on Doctor Who, where they've had more than 1 or 2 companions, is the fact that the more companions you add, the increasingly difficult it is to write for. Especially in the old days where Doctor Who was half an hour long, it's hard to get, everybody featured in a half-hour long thing, or even, in a 2-hour or hour and a half serial that's broken into 4 half-hour segments.
You and the Doctor, you go have adventures. You too. You just say the TARDIS and you shut up.
It's usually not quite that bad, but yeah, there's points
There
where
are
it's like,
times.
where it's like somebody has like 3 lines for the entire serial, or even gets written out in the case of Nyssa for one episode, just because they didn't know what to do with the character for that particular bit. They had wonderful stuff for Tegan, they had wonderful stuff for Adric, but they didn't have anything for Nyssa, so she had a headache and wound up sleeping in the TARDIS for like episodes 2 and 3, and the latter part of 1 and the early part of 4. So, my concerns, there's of course been a lot of internet stuff going, oh, I'm going to hate this, yada yada. I'm not on that boat. My concern is Chris Chibnall bringing in this completely amateur writing staff. And I don't mean amateur as in they don't know how to write. I'm calling them amateur because they don't know how to write Doctor Who. In previous years, when a new writer joined Doctor Who, there was usually somebody more experienced that would, kind of help them out for a bit, so that they at least got a couple episodes written, so that they knew what they were doing before that person stepped down, and so on. It happened quite a bit behind the scenes, but here, he just flat out didn't hire all writers, so unless he's mentoring everybody.
Which is a possibility.
And
That's
face it though,
true.
Chibnall's outings, I mean, take a look at what Chibnall wrote. Like I said, he wrote 42, which is not listed as one of the best Doctor Who episodes of all time.
It's an okay one, but not the best.
It's an okay one, and some people don't like it. It's on some people's don't like list. He wrote Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which had its issues. It was sometimes fun, but sometimes really kind of, what were you thinking? He wrote Power of 3, which basically was crap.
For the most part, yeah.
It was a mediocre plot that had absolutely no conclusion that was satisfying. It was an anticlimax. And I'm really hoping he has developed better since then. Now, if you look at his writing for Broadchurch, it's, pretty much very, very good. Who here has actually seen Broadchurch? Okay, so a few of you have seen Broadchurch. You would say it's a good show?
Very good.
I'm hoping that's what he's bringing to Doctor Who. Thing is, can you actually take the writing style of Broadchurch and adapt it to Doctor Who? That's what I'm worried about.
I was just curious, is it because he was so good with Broadchurch because it wasn't the style of Doctor Who? And he can't really write that sort of thing?
That's what we're kind of
Yeah.
wondering, or if this is, or is this him actually continuing to write to the point where he actually found his niche?
Yeah,
And
too.
even more concerned is the fact that this whole new writing staff doesn't have a leg to stand on that they can take anything from. I was honest to God hoping Capaldi would last one more series just so that the writing staff had some existing characterization and other little traits that they could use to get used to it before Capaldi left and they had to deal with a new doctor. But everything's starting from scratch, and this makes the changeover from Russell T Davies to Moffat look minuscule in comparison, because Moffat kept a few of the writers, he kept most of the production teams. Pretty much the only thing changed was the executive producer, the doctor, of course, because that was the same time David Tennant went to Matt Smith, and the companions, and a few other minor technical changes. I think they had to deal with a slightly reduced budget that season due to the cut of the funding to the BBC from the
Cut of the funding, and I also think they had challenges before that too, because they had to upgrade to the new high definition cameras.
That too, yeah. So that particular season they cut the budget back slightly in order to accommodate. Then shortly after that they picked up co-funding from BBC America and was able to start piecing that budget back in. So here you have nothing the same. Chibnall has removed everybody that had anything to do with the original run of Doctor Who. Like I said, I don't know if Nick Briggs is still there doing Dalek forces. That reminds me, another thing that has been stated is this series, none of the monsters that you have done previously will be involved. No Daleks, no Cybermen, no Santarans, no Weeping Angels,
Silurians,
no Master,
no Zygons.
no Zygons, no Sea Monsters, or Sea Devils.
Yeah, so it's going to be all new monsters.
So half the budget's just gonna be making new monsters.
That's part of the worry. That's also the part of the worry is the fact that means that not only does this new writing staff have to invent a new doctor and new companions, but now they also have to invent new monsters. He is really putting this writing staff to task. This is a huge,
Even the second Doctor, at the very least in his first episode, had Daleks to work off of.
Another thing that's changing is previously Doctor Who special effects were done by Milk VFX. This was a company that had split off from a company known as The Mill, who had done it for the first couple seasons of Doctor Who. They have since parted ways with Milk VFX, and it is all going to be done from the BBC's visual effects department. I don't know if this is a budget-saving action by them, or if it's just he felt like they needed to go a different way. What I don't know if this means is that any of the effects that we have known, that we have come to know and love or hate from the last 10 years are going to be there if when Jodie Whittaker eventually steps down, because all doctors eventually do, if her regeneration is going to look like any of the previous regenerations we've had in the new series. We don't know that. We don't know if the Daleks will eventually come back, because they're the Daleks, they come back. Whether they will look and or sound the same as they have previously. I hope to God Chibnall doesn't make the same mistake Moffat did with the freaking 5-colored Daleks of plasticity. The freaking Sentai Daleks.
They'd be amazing, but they were so bulky, unwieldy just by looking at them.
Did you ever make that video with them coming out to the Power Rangers theme?
No, I didn't, but I did use them from Mr. Roboto video. With clips of other Daleks and Cybermen
That's
and
why
War
we needed
Machines.
networking, so you could have shown us that.
Actually, it's still on YouTube. They haven't taken it down, and that was my old channel.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting anything to work on this. I've tried to hit Discord 6 times, nothing's happened. 16 times, more like.
Right-click on it, maybe? See if they can get anything to come
Maybe
up.
turn it off and turn it back on.
Discord.
Well, I actually can now because I'm out of my Cliff Notes. So I'm running off of memory now. But yes, he said no new monsters. The special effects department is going to be in-house. And I think they've done a little bit of in-house work with Doctor Who in the last 10 years or so. I think like Day of the Doctor, I think all of the prop Daleks they used for that was done in-house.
Okay.
If I recall. And I think they actually got a BAFTA for that too.
So yeah, so it was just the Dalek stuff for that episode?
Well,
Or was it more?
I think the CGI effects were still done by Milk.
Okay.
And that's the thing, that's what the BBC is taking over is the CGI effects. So.
But still, if you remember anything about Day of the Doctor, those Dalek effects in that particular episode, oh my word. Apparently they literally took miniature toys, specialized them up a little bit to look like actual Daleks, and then proceeded to blow them all to Kingdom Come.
And I think they might have used a little bit of like CGI retouching.
It's just a little bit of retouching, but it was very obviously really well done and really nice in-camera effects.
Now, I'd hoped by this point that we would have had some episode titles or anything. They have not told us a thing. All listings at this point call them Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, Episode 4, Episode 5, etc.
Maybe that's what they're actually gonna do.
Because at least with episode titles, we could take blind guesses.
Yeah, it was like dinosaur under the spaceship. You could say, well, but there's going to be a spaceship in
There's
there.
going to be spaceship with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I mean, And that's essentially what the episode was, let's face it.
If you expected anything more, well, sorry.
But, yeah, at this point they haven't even released episode titles, and the BBC is getting uber paranoid, by the way. So who here knows about the about minute and a half or so of episode 1 that got leaked to the internet a few months ago? The BBC has actually started legal action. They are trying to force the company that owns the Dropbox that this leaked from to reveal its owner, so that they can seek legal repercussions. Now, if this is like previous leaks, if those of you remember Series 8, the whole of Episode 1 was leaked to the internet about a month or two prior to release, and the scripts for Episode 1 to 5 were released were leaked, and it turned out to be somebody in Miami that had been hired to do the subtitles for the episodes into either Spanish or Portuguese. Somebody that was working on that leaked those episodes out, and as a result, Doctor Who no longer deals with that company because they basically broke a security disclosure agreement.
And this one, they're going apparently a step beyond even now.
Yes, well, we still don't know because they still don't know who owns the Dropbox that was leaked. This was definitely deliberate. In the case of what happened in Miami, someone didn't secure their personal computer, had sharing on for something else, and managed to accidentally share the folder that he was working on the Doctor Who with. It was an accident. This was deliberate. So they're being very uptight about it. There is a legal, there is a subpoena in the courts of Washington for, I believe it's a Microsoft subsidiary. It's either a Microsoft or Google subsidiary that they're going after that has the information they're looking for.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've been hearing, I don't know if it's even just the footage. I think even just clear still images of the footage on YouTube has been getting banned. Like, people, the only video I've ever seen of any of the footage is like extremely stretched and distorted, with a little bit of dialogue trying to explain what was supposedly happening in the scene. That's really weird because
Now the thing is, I will say this: I saw the scene, and it did. I'm not going to reveal any spoilers. Don't worry. It did a lot though to waylay my concerns because the writing seemed to be pretty good. But this is also an episode 1, that Chibnall has dealt with a great deal. So he probably was the primary writer for this.
most likely.
But it did feel appropriate to the character. I was enjoying what I watched. So I wish I could tell you much more than that, other than speculation. But like I said, there isn't a lot. How many of you have heard anything about Series 11 that I haven't brought up? Oh, thank you. My cane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the only thing I have is, it's small, but I saw the panel at SDCC, and they didn't say anything, but the chemistry between the actors was amazing. Them just, it gave me so much confidence. So that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Tosin, Mandip, and Jodie just seem to be best friends, and I can't wait to see them on screen.
Okay. And that actually does happen a lot with Doctor Who. I mean, if you take a look at David Tennant and Catherine Tate, they still do stuff together unrelated to Doctor Who. I think the last thing I saw was them doing, what was it, an evening at the RSC a couple of years ago?
DuckTales. They both do voices for DuckTales.
Well, I knew Tennant did McDuck.
She's Magic of the Spell.
Really?
Really?
I haven't gotten that far into DuckTales yet. I think I'm only about halfway through it. Huh. That's awesome.
Interesting.
Yes.
They've done Shakespeare at the Royal National.
Yeah, Shakespeare I heard about.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the
That's
one that
the
everyone
evening at the
remembers.
RSC, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the Royal Shakespeare Company. Yeah, I watched that. I thought, yeah, they're like besties, I think, at this point.
And I think they've also done a couple audio ventures now together.
Oh yeah, well, so has
Yeah.
most of the most of, because Tennant and Piper's done some. I don't know if they've gotten, my brain just died. What's her name?
Rima Gaiman.
Yeah, Freeman Agyeman, yes. I don't know if she's been in for the 10th Doctor audios yet, but
I think so far it's just been, yeah, with Kate and.
yeah, with Kate and Piper, yeah. And I don't know if they've done anything yet with Captain Jack with
Torchwood.
not with Torchwood,
Well,
Torchwood's ongoing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say they have that for Torchwood. If they ever want to do like Tennant and Piper and Captain Jack, like something that happened like during Utopia or something.
Yeah, no, as far as I recall, it's just been, he's been doing Torchwood, and then they did like those 2 10th Doctor adventures.
On the side, on the audio side, it's looking more and more likely that Eccleston will be coming to Big Finish at some point. He seems to be getting more and more involved with the Doctor.
Oh yeah, there was like a convention or two ago. All of a sudden, he was doing like an arm wrestle with Matt Smith.
I know they can.
The
I know
ice
they
is
can get
gone.
John Barrowman over there for a sandwich these days.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, it's probably because, I mean, it feels like when Eccleston left, he was all pissed off at how they were with the whole situation. But if he's going to Big Finish, that's
That's a different
group of
situation,
people.
yeah.
So,
But I think it
he'd
took
be-
him a while to get over that just that general pissiness about how it happened.
So he did something worse. That's why he did Thor: Dark World. Said, okay, this is the lowest I can.
It
stay.
took a while for them to convince Tom Baker too, and now he's like whole hog into it.
Yeah.
I don't think they started
I
showing up
think
in the
I-
monthly range yet. If not, I
I
think they're
think
thinking
he's
about
I
it.
think he's got his own.
He's pretty much got his own range, and all they have to do is promise him more jelly babies. By the way, I just finally experienced jelly beans for the first time at this convention today, or no, yesterday.
Really?
Had 2 of them. They were delicious.
Oh yeah. There used to be a British confectionery store on O'Dana Road I used to go to.
If you see him, there's actually a 4th Doctor running around. Or at least he was yesterday, and he actually legit has a bag of jelly babies. Or at least he did. I don't know if he's run out yet.
Awesome.
It's like as soon as he opened up the bag, someone else was like, "Grab a red one." Okay.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to even conjecture at this point?
Sure about like what the personality of the new Doctor is going to be, because this is a new Doctor, and I haven't been following Doctor Who as long as these two. I'm relatively the new guy on the block, wise only for a few years.
He's also our optimist.
He's also our extreme optimist. What was your favorite one again that we keep mentioning?
Time Lash.
Time Lash. It's not Time Lash, so he always jokes that it's going to go down a point.
Yeah, but I noticed that usually in some way the Doctor is a counterpoint to the previous Doctor, like
Frequently.
infrequently.
Not always, but frequently.
You know, like Patrick Troughton was a lot more like looser and friendlier than William Hartnell.
William, at least when he started, yeah.
Whereas, and then Patrick Troughton was a bit too goofy, so they sort of like serioused him up with John Pertwee.
God, I miss John Pertwee.
And then John Pertwee was a bit too stuffy, so he was.
I wouldn't say stuffy.
But Tom Baker was a lot more bohemian than.
Oh yeah.
You know.
That kind of goes without saying.
Anyway, so it was like beyond the obvious fact of Jodie Whittaker as female, what can we play off against with the Peter Capaldi character that like?
I think she might be slightly more energetic by his
Slightly,
looks of things.
by slightly more energetic, maybe a little bit sillier because Capaldi got pretty serious for a while.
Not so Scottish.
Mm-hmm. Not so Scottish. In fact, we know she's using her. I think it's a Yorkshire accent.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, she's using that. She's been given permission to use the Yorkshire accent instead of trying to do a just like a received pronunciation or a London accent.
Somewhat less punk, because I got a very punk vibe from Peter Capaldi.
It really depends on what season.
Depends on the season. Punkish rock.
Because if you're
Because
talking
you all
about
learned to guitar for the
Series
show.
9 Capaldi, that was basically Capaldi the rock star. But then he got somber again during Series 10, and of course, Series 8 was basically one giant season of Who Am I? Excuse me, let me stand a moment. I hate these chairs. I hate these chairs to death.
Now, I had sort of a hope spot, like, it's my blind optimism that when they said there would be no new monsters, like,
Oh, no, they said there would be no old monsters.
no old monsters, like,
No room for old monsters.
now it's like, they could get away with technicalities because technically the sea monsters aren't the Silurians, so maybe they'll just,
Technically, they're still a classic Who monster, though.
okay.
They're gonna have rainbow-colored Cybermen, that's like skirt.
That'd be
Is that what
awesome.
you're talking about?
No.
Camouflage Cybermen just walking out
No.
the doors.
Oh, God.
So, those that do not know me, I will say this. When I joined this podcast in 2012, it was so I could rant my displeasure at Stephen Moffat.
Keep ranting.
This was right after season 6, which in my opinion is one of the worst seasons of Doctor Who that we've had.
It actually almost legit stopped me from watching.
So I came on because, I've gotten a little better on Stephen Moffat because I didn't mind him so much during the Capaldi era. Not as much, but he is still not a great showrunner. He's good at the media hype. But when it comes down to the day-to-day work, not really. He was a horrible script editor. There was a lot of things that went through on series 5 through 10 that somebody should have looked at it, gone back to the writer and said, do it again.
It's not to say that Capaldi's a bad writer, but he's always rushing it too much is the problem.
You mean
It's-
Moffat?
With Moffat.
Moffat is a good writer when he has time to write. When he was working under Russell T Davies, he had to do 1 to 2 episode scripts every year, and that's if he was writing a 2-parter or not. As a showrunner, he has to do the opening, usually a 1 to 2 part closer, and usually an episode somewhere in the middle, and he has to do that all within 9 months, plus a Christmas special, plus any other special that has to get written. And for Moffat, that was too much. And then he took on doing Sherlock while he was doing this, so he had to split his time between the 2 shows. Also a mistake. Mind you, Russell T Davies did series 1, 2, 3, 4, the specials, while doing Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures, and he burned out. That was one of the reasons he had to step down. He was already burning out, I think, by the end of series 3. But Moffat, the 11th Hour was good, but the series rapidly went downhill from there, in my opinion. It's had its high points and its low points. I still consider Day of the Doctor to be one of the most excellent episodes I've seen, but it doesn't excuse the rest of the season, which also brought me my least favorite episode in New Who, and this is including Love and Monsters, and that's Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Now, a lot of you are looking at me confused about that.
Let us remind you.
I will explain. The reason I don't like Journey to the Center of the TARDIS is that the supporting characters were completely unlikable. The episode couldn't keep continuity within its own episode. This was the one that wound up showing us all the new extra areas of the TARDIS, which turned out mostly to be a lot of corridors. But they also introduced us to the Eye of Harmony within the TARDIS about 4 scenes after they had someone speared through the chest by fuel rods. Yeah.
That's not
What does
right.
A have to do with B? And then they have to end the episode in a literal, not figurative, literal reset button.
Literally, he made a button, wrote on it, push this, and shot it through a time hole to himself to stop this from happening.
Yeah, it was bad. This one happened under Moffat's watch, and I'm like, how did you not send this back to the writer and say, fix this? Rewrite this 3 more times, please.
Let's go from page 1.
Instead,
and
he
let's
added little
try.
bits and pieces to it, which had to do with the overarching plot, and then sent it on its way. Also, the only redeemable part is there was a very nice library set in it, but that's pointless now, because that's the other thing about Series 11 is the TARDIS is changing again. Like the screwdriver has changed, the TARDIS set apparently has been worked on for the last year.
I hope to keep the round things.
Somebody that was working on it with the set designer has called his ideas completely crazy. I don't know if that's a good crazy or a bad crazy. But crazy to me reminds me of the set that they had when Matt Smith first started. The one that not the original first episode, but the one after that, which always looked like to me like M.C. Escher and Dr. Seuss sat down to design a TARDIS set. It had stairs going all over the place. They tried to make the console kind of steampunky, and it didn't work, in my opinion. And everything was that horrific orange color. Not the coral orange. I liked the coral orange. The coral orange was nice, but more like inside of a pumpkin orange.
And yeah, that set also lasted like the least longest, I think.
Yeah, it lasted season 5, season 6, and half of season 7 until they introduced the set that we currently know as the TARDIS set and the Snowman, and I really liked that set.
Yes, that's been a good set, and the only thing they've done since Capaldi hopped on is add a few lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they changed the interior, like neon lights or fluorescent lights that were in the console from blue to orange, and they added a couple of lights on the roundels.
And probably did
and added some bookcases, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked nice. I liked that set. I loved that set, and they've gotten rid of it, and they're replacing it with something else. Now, if they were trying to replace it with something that was more classical looking, like, hearkening back to classic Doctor Who, I wouldn't have an issue with that. But the fact that they call the set designs crazy, I'm honestly concerned about the TARDIS set now.
Because either it actually is legit really good, or
we're going to look at this and go,
eee.
The orange is back. The orange.
No more orange. Please, no more orange.
Orange is back! Remove my eyes!
Shade carpeting.
I'm sorry. That particular comment just makes me think of what it would be if we look at the TARDIS and it looks like Austin Powers' lair. No. No. At that point, no. Somebody has to die. Somebody has to fund my trip to Wales to kill people.
Let's start with the set dresser.
Yeah, let's start a Kickstarter.
Now, about Whittaker herself, like I said, she's a good actress. She knows her chops. If you've watched Broadchurch, there's a part, I think, at the end of the second season where she has this epic speech moment, and you're just like, okay, I can now see this. I can now see her as the Doctor, based on this scene alone. Because prior to that, I was watching Broadchurch, and I was watching her character in particular, and I'm like, I honestly don't know if she has the gravitas to pull this off, because the one thing about the Doctor is the Doctor, whoever they are, is very charismatic in one way or another. And her character in Broadchurch was mostly really wishy-washy. And then she had this moment, I'm like, okay, I've seen it. I can see it now.
Oh, and also apparently she's been getting a lot of coaching from Tennant.
That doesn't surprise me. I do think that with Whittaker we might be seeing kind of a female David Tennant.
Which, that's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, that same level of manic energy that Tennant put into it. Because if you got to say something about Tennant, he was manic. He just was full, just bursting with energy when he was the Doctor on set. And if Whittaker can bring that to the role of the Doctor, I will be a happy camper. I will say that Tennant is my favorite Doctor now. I used to be a huge Tom Baker fan. I was still a Tom Baker fan during the Chris Eccleston era, and then I met David Tennant, and I'm just like, I love this man. He responds to everything the same way I always would if I was the Doctor. I love you, man. So,
I'm still very, but at certain times.
No, bad man. Sit down.
What do y'all think about the outfit? We've seen pictures of the outfit. It looks like Mork mixed with Mindy.
The outfit bothers me a bit.
In parts.
At the same point, if you take a being that's lived 1,500 years, and this is their first outing as a female, I could see kind of throwing together an outfit like that just based on, oh, I think this would look good.
Yeah, but Missy managed to dress much better on her
We
first
don't
Yes,
how
we
long
don't
she
know
was,
how
Missy.
long she was there. I'm kind of hoping the outfit changes
I mean,
next
unless you get some
series.
sort of like lost
And also the
episode where she
master
dressed like a
always
saint
dressed
person.
much
Yeah,
better.
the
Well,
doctors
mind you,
have press
I love
taste in
Missy. I
outfits.
love Missy because she's evil Mary Poppins. She is.
Yeah.
So just Mary
And the
Poppins.
fact that if you watched how she acted, you could see echoes of previous masters in how she acted. There was a lot of Ainley in Missy.
Very much so. Especially the way she
The
pulled
way she
strings on the
smiled.
Cybermen.
The way she smiled looked like it was right out of Anthony Ainley's playbook. It was absolutely,
Totally disarming and yet extremely creepy.
yes. And of course, you know, you take a look at the various masters. You look at Roger Delgado's master is Moriarty. That was how he was written, that's how he is. Anthony Ainley's master is Snidely Whiplash. He is. You come on, tell me you couldn't see him tying someone to a railroad track.
And twirl a mustache.
Then you get to the John Sims master, and John Sims master is the Joker. I mean, he's evil for the lulz, he is off the wall energy, he's the freaking Joker.
Which Joker?
Probably Mark Hamill's.
Mark Hamill's is probably the closest one, yeah.
And that's the thing, on a side thing, if you take a look at that, that does kind of make the ending to Series 10, that kind of makes it his master's killing joke, if you think about it. He does
Killed
this
himself.
elaborate plan to basically abduct the Doctor's companion and have it turned into a Cyberman and then let him know, yes, he's basically out to hurt the Doctor as emotionally as possible. And then you have Missy, who is, like I said, she's an amalgam. And then she's evil Mary Poppins on top of that. And a little bit of a Yandari in season 8, with the whole talking to the Doctor as her boyfriend. Oh, come on, she was creepy like that. I actually liked that. It was just, she was just all sorts of crazy. She was, I swear she was ready for the padded cell, and then she got better. By better, I mean only
Yeah.
slightly less psychotic.
Yeah. Shades of
Less
better.
worse.
Less worse. Well, no, because I still liked her. It's just she creeped me out, which is what she was supposed to do. And the thing is, I'm kind of hoping that we do see quite a bit of a blending of the other Doctors in Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Obviously, there's going to be some Tennant. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of Peter Davison's Doctor. A bit of the whimsy, not too much, because then you get to Matt Smith territory. Matt Smith I have compared to a 6-year-old with ADD. At least his doctor, anyway.
I
And
thought he
that's,
was an over-eager little puppy dog.
yeah, there was a little too much, I think, of one-note characterization with Smith. And that did
Which
kind
is
of...
sad one,
He's
because
always
when they
turned
gave him a
11.
chance to act, he could actually act.
Yes. If you take a look at him acting as the cyber controller, whatever thingy in Nightmare in Silver, you can see that Smith has the capacity to act around that.
Mr. Clever.
Mr. Clever, thank you.
Well, he was fine in The Crown.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was mostly, he was hamstrung by the writing and sometimes by the directing. I think it was mostly the writing. So I basically, once again, put that load on Moffat's shoulders. Capaldi got better off because he got to at least go through a variety of different phases with his character.
And I think he also kind of dug his heels in a little bit. When
Yeah,
it first came out.
there is that. I think Capaldi also had the thing, if something was going on with his character he didn't like, he could have hit Moffat over the head with his Oscar and gone back to what he was doing.
Well, maybe age had something to do with it. I mean, Matt Smith was very young when he took the role on.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not about-
Peter Capaldi is just like
Call man, call
Peter
me.
Capaldi. And
You're
if he
taking
says
the
something-
guy that just came off the thick of it
Yeah.
and had won awards and he, like I said, had an Oscar and is asking him to be the Doctor.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's probably a little more than that, saying, no, let's try it this way instead of this way.
But he's also been a fanboy his entire life.
Oh, yeah.
it's
Well,
not
so
like
was
asking-
Tennant.
Yeah.
And that too.
Yeah.
Mind you, that particular trait of Tennant I thought was great. It helps that you know the role and love the role.
By the way,
Matt Smith, when he was hired, was basically like, no, I know nothing about the show. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
He knew that his parents were big fans, in particular of Dalek episodes, I believe, and that was all the reference he had. And actually, speaking of Capaldi, I saw some of the fan art that came out after he became the Doctor, and he had some really nice, like, he had a scene where it's the TARDIS and this rocky terrain. It's like, wow, you actually had some talent.
His letter to the BBC.
So the
when
letter
he
to the
said-
BBC, the poor
that
guy.
comforts me on sad days.
They treated him so badly. There's literally some letters inside the BBC going, this guy again.
Well, now he has the last laugh.
Now he has the last laugh. I'm the Doctor. Bye.
Matt, could you look up or does anybody remember the name of the new composer for Series 11? Because I
Saigon
forgot to write it down.
Akinola.
What's that?
Saigon Akinola.
Akinola, okay.
Akinola.
Now,
Okay.
you heard me mentioning about Murray Gold earlier. I do think that he was about ready to stand down after doing it for over 10 years.
No.
First of all, I do believe his last few iterations of the Doctor Who theme were horribly overworked. Because this is the man who in 2005 said, it's hard to improve over the original, which is practically perfect. And so that is why if you listen to the original 2005 Doctor Who theme, there's a lot of the original, the ooey-oo sound is pretty much right in there. It's pretty much the classic with a little bit of background orchestration, and then he changes the ooey-oo sound to horns, and then it becomes more symphonic, and then he starts changing the bass tempo, and it's just like, okay, I'm liking this less and less.
What was that, him or was that the producer saying, well, we want you to change it up?
No, that was,
There's only one
well,
way
he
to go.
still has to be the one to do it, so.
Yeah.
I know.
What I'm hoping is that this
They
new
wanna
composer
change.
does take it back to brass tacks, go back to the original Derbyshire theme, and
See what you can do.
and try to keep it as close to the original as possible, because it is very hard to improve over that classic original theme. As to the rest of the incidental music, Murray Gold did come out with some of the most memorable themes ever in Doctor Who. This is not hard because the previous eras of Doctor Who actually tended to use minimal music when possible until around the 80s.
Yeah.
They always going back to the library, just pulling things out and just be like, oh yeah, okay, here.
Yeah, usually the best tracks out of those 80s were like themes for specific monsters. I love the 80s Cyberman theme.
The 80s Cybermen and 70s, but yeah, they were mostly.
Some of the stuff actually for like Moonbase and stuff too. from
But
the
they were
60s.
used very sparingly. There was only this one scene where you see Cybermen coming over the moon. We're going to include this music, and the rest of it's going to have almost no soundtrack.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Whereas, of course, with modern productions, you have that theme music going almost constantly in the background. And that's the way, of course, modern productions are done. Murray Gold has managed to pull out some of the greatest themes, stuff that is going to be in my music library forever.
I Am the Doctor. We'll never leave the
I
library.
Am the Doctor is probably his greatest work. And this was coming off of This Is Gallifrey, which is one of my other favorites. More recent time, The Shepherd's Boy from the last couple of seasons has become also one of the ones I love to listen to, because it actually puts me in a bit of a melancholy mood. I'm very much a mood writer. I write works, so I have all of my music arrangements listed by mood, for the mood I want to be in when I have to write this particular scene or that particular scene. So, it's like I have my angry music, and my sad music, and then my melancholy music, and my happy music, and yeah. It's how my creative process works. And I have Murray Gold to thank, because at least a third of the stuff in my music folder for that is basically his works. And some of them are variations on the same song. I mean, I Am the Doctor got rewritten so many times that it's like I have I Am the Doctor in my action theme, and then I have the majestic tale of a madman in a box in my triumphant theme. This does make that the new composer has a very big shoes to fill, gigantic shoes. Murray Gold pretty much was a key contributor to making Doctor Who what it was in the 21st century. And the new composer has to keep up to that standard.
Good luck, cross the fingers.
If the music comes off as flat or unemotional, it's going to really hurt the new production. It really is. Again, this is something I think that Chibnall should have hesitated on before, at least a season before trying to do this, because then it wouldn't be so harsh of a change. And this is the one thing that every person in this room that's a fan of Doctor Who has to be ready for, is the fact that this is going to be a different Doctor Who. This isn't the Doctor Who you saw a year or two ago. This is not the Doctor Who you've seen 5 years ago. And it's not the Doctor Who you had 10 years ago. This is going to have a different feel, a different look. It's still going to be Doctor Who. I mean, when you boil it down, no matter, I mean, there's been regime changes in Doctor Who in the past, for good and for bad. I mean, if you take a look at like the Robert Holmes era versus the Barry Letts era, or the John Nathan Turner era versus anybody else.
He had his ups and he definitely had his downs.
You'll notice that there is a distinctive feel and change. The end of the Third Doctor era, which I believe was Barry Letts, there was a lot of Eastern mysticism that was involved in most of the writing. And then you get into the Robert Holmes era, and that was some of the creepiest Doctor Who we ever got. It was gothic horror turned into Doctor Who. And then you got the John Nathan Turner era, which was camp.
Camp with a little bit elements of the others.
If you take a look at the Moffat era versus the Russell T Davies era, Russell T Davies wrote camp, but he wrote good camp. It was nostalgic, happy, manic.
He wrote pop.
And then you get into Moffat, and there's this pseudo-fantasy. We got Moffat in charge. We figured it was going to be, it's time to go hide because this is going to be the new creepy era of Doctor Who. And instead we got this fantasy, whimsy feel that
fairy tales
just didn't quite work.
Yeah.
And then, so now we're changing again. So Doctor Who fandom has endured this before, and it will happen again. And when you boil it all down, it is still going to be the Doctor traveling through time and space, saving people from monsters. And those monsters may also be other people. It is still going to be that same essence of show, just with a different filter. I guess filter's a good way to put it.
Filter, yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add?
I really hate the costume.
I'm not fond of the costume either. I like the coat. I love the coat.
I'm okay with the coat. I'm okay with the shirt. There's some things
I actually no. I don't like the shirt. I don't like the shirt.
I'm fine with the shirt.
I don't like the shirt because it's like people said, it's way too Mark and Mindy.
Like the braces.
It's way too Mark and Mindy. I like the coat. I like that. I hope that they replace. I hope they replace the shirt with like a dress shirt or a dress blouse or something, because it's just.
They have two versions of it. They've got like the maroon one and the blue one, so they're gonna stick with it for at least a little while.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take a look at Capaldi, he changed costumes 2-3 times over his 3 seasons.
For sure.
Tennant had the pinstripe suit and the blue suit. Matt Smith had his the early one, and then everything he had after the Snowmen with the longer coat and everything. So I'm kind of hoping, and if you look back to Tom Baker changed his outfit all the time. Pertwee changed his outfit over time. It was only after John Nathan Turner took over that they're like, no, one uniformed outfit, and that's it.
With lots of question marks on it.
Yeah.
Which makes us ask even more questions.
So,
Thank you, Nathan
so
Turner.
I'm fine with this as like a first attempt outfit. I do hope come season 12 or series 12 that they change up the outfit a little bit.
Get something, yeah.
Just because those pants are hard to pull off as a cosplayer. If you're short, it's tough. Yeah.
Oh no, there's no way you're gonna pull it off in your shorts.
Oh yeah.
They're already touching my feet.
But no, I must admit, I like the coat. Of course, I have a thing that the Doctor needs to be in a long coat of some kind, because it just works. When Matt Smith came out, he went to the little short professor's coat. I'm like, oh my God. It's Bill Nye, Dr. Guy. The bow tie grew on me after a while. But no, I was like, the rest of it had to go. When he went to the quasi longer coat, I'm like, okay, that's better. I can deal with that better. I like that better. I also hate the outfit because it's too modern. And as a Tennant fan, I know I need to be hit for that because I like Tennant's outfit, but I do kind of like the fact that the Doctor always seems to dress a little bit anachronistic because the Doctor never belongs to one time.
He is of all time.
They are of all time, yes. So dressing slightly out of period always makes sense to me. Of course, I don't think the Doctor should ever come out in a Starfleet outfit. But
Come on, the Time Lord outfit.
oh God, no, please. Kill the pretentiousness now.
Oh, come on, at least once. At least have her come
Well, why
on
are
at
those
once just
silly
to show off
hats?
how ridiculous it is.
It is, no, the thing is, it suits the Time Lords perfectly because they are the most pretentious race in existence. Anybody that would have one guy named half of their sacred relics the X of Rassilon. I woke up this morning, I had to use the toaster of Rassilon to make my breakfast. After that, we got on the bus of Rassilon and headed to the downtown of Rassilon to shop at the mall of Rassilon. It's
Imagine him walking around with
And
those
I had to
little
walk
papers,
around
like,
the carts of
mine's
Rassilon.
mine.
freaking
Yes.
pretentious.
Yes.
This is mine. Oh, this is
You're
mine.
parked in the parking space of Rassilon.
And then, of course,
Change
you've
the
got
procedure of
parking only.
Rassilon.
You've got Omega making the hand of Omega, as if remote stellar manipulator was not pretentious enough. You just had to take it that extra notch.
All of them, terrible.
Yes, following today's panel, I will be shopping at the Hy-Vee of Rassilon for my dinner. No, they're just absolutely pretentious. It's like the Time Lords as a race basically needs to have someone come in and remove the stick.
Yep. So the bug will have room to breathe.
It's at least they actually got rid of Rassilon.
For now.
For the
Well,
moment.
they ejected him off the planet. That's good enough. I want him to come back as a reoccurring master-like villain, just with a new
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
regeneration.
for
Yeah.
now he's gone. Doesn't mean they're not going to come back like the Masters. Be like, oh, it's Rassilon again. Oh shit. You gotta deal with
Got the
Rassilon
power
again.
gauntlet again.
I'd love to have a Torchwood episode where he breaks into Torchwood and steals the other gauntlet. Seriously, it's just,
I love the power glove. It's so bad. Thank you, Mr. May I have another?
yeah, you talk about bad outfits. God, those gloves. I'm sorry, Lord Rassilon. Do you also need the scrubbing brush of Rassilon? Okay.
We're going to take a bath in the tub of Rassilon.
So it'd be like a Spaceball sort of thing, like Rassilon is the dish towel, Rassilon the soap dispenser,
Rassilon the flamethrower.
Rassilon the toilet paper.
Rassilon the glass cleaner. Why does every time I use this, the seal of Rassilon show up on my window?
I keep scrubbing it, it won't go away.
No, the outfit. I looked at that outfit. There's parts of the outfit there's parts of the outfit I absolutely despise.
Big goofy colors.
No, I meant Whittaker's.
Oh, Whittaker's.
Yeah. It's like I said, it looks to me like a first attempt outfit. I want to see them revise it. I have gotten absolutely no bearing on the personalities of the companions. I've tried, but there's no information.
Again, they're being very closed about it.
Well, there's going to be two, so is there going to be like a smart one and a dumb one?
No, there's three.
Or
Three.
There's an older gentleman, and then was the other two? Were the other two both women, or were the two males and a female?
A guy and a
Tosin and Mandip, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the older gentleman.
Yeah.
And it's great. There's like, there's
I
a
just hope we
lot
don't have
more.
to
Oh,
repeat
it's
it.
a lot less white, the cast. So that's exciting and fun.
Here's another thing about the Doctor and their personality is when you act in a long-term role, a good chunk of yourself has to be in the character. Tom Baker has said this in a few interviews. Is the character becomes an extension of yourself. It's not entirely you, but there's a lot of you in it. So I'm hoping Jodie Whittaker also takes that to heart and puts a lot of herself into the role.
That just reminds you of that the first episode, East Space. Oh, that's unusual. I usually get along famously with children. Shrugs and keeps walking through the forest after a slime monster runs away.
But yeah, so I'm hoping we get some of her base personality in there. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to keep acting that for 3 seasons. I mean, you could tell at times, especially if you've watched the short special Time Crash. There's a point in there where David Tennant stops being the Doctor and starts just being David Tennant. I think it's about the point he looks at Peter Davison and goes, "And you are my doctor, sir." And you realize, yeah, you're not. He's not talking as the Doctor. He's talking as himself.
He was geeking out.
Yes, he was.
Oh, the rainy specs.
Apparently, though, not as bad as the time that Elizabeth Sladen was on for School Reunion. Apparently, he really geeked out at that point.
Well, also didn't help that their entire first scene was them running.
Also, speaking of Christopher Eccleston, who here has seen the footage from the London Comic Con of him basically bonding with the other Doctors?
I've seen a few of the stills.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, mostly stills. That was his first actual convention appearance. And yeah, he had basically a arm brace with Matt Smith, and Peter Capaldi was also there and apparently gave him a hug. So he's welcome. He's definitely welcomed into the con circuit, and I am really hoping that he continues to do so.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, apparently the prices for his autographs were ludicrous.
I'm not surprised.
He was in a Marvel movie. He's got to charge more.
No, this was both him and Capaldi, and we're talking once conversion from pounds to dollars is done, they were around $300 for an autograph. Yeah, it was pretty. And the thing is that the other Doctors, most of the other living Doctors were also at this convention, save Tom Baker, and I think David Tennant wasn't there. And they were getting like, I think 70 per autograph, or maybe not even that.
I thought Shatner's 80 was bad.
But so yeah, there was a huge price difference between Capaldi and Eccleston and the other Doctors. So it was just like there was a lot of protests from people in England about the price of those autographs. I am hoping that doesn't dissuade him from showing up at other cons.
Yeah, just
Not
maybe
that he'll
bring it
show
down
up
a
here
little
because we
bit.
probably can't afford him. The cost alone of getting him to fly across the pond would be
Probably most of our budget, if not all of the budget.
yes.
You could just hold the convention on a little tent out in the parking lot.
I actually wonder how Chicago TARDIS
Come,
manages to do
Eccleston,
it.
we'll put up the tent for you.
Money. I assume they charge a lot more for people to go to the convention.
They do. I've looked at those prices.
It's not crazy. It's like, I feel like I paid $90 for the weekend.
Yeah, anything above 50 and my brain goes,
Yeah.
I do want to go there, but I would like to be reputable enough that I could get in on a press pass, honestly.
I think it's definitely worth it. It's any place where they cram like thousands of Doctor Who fans into a hotel for a weekend is fun.
Yeah, I've wanted to go. I've always wanted to go. I could just never afford to
Yeah.
go. Once
You
I
just
once
go
I
up there
once
and
I
be like,
factor in hotel
"Podcast."
costs and everything, it's way out of my
Yeah,
budget.
because you can't be driving down there.
Right.
For like,
Yeah, no.
We cram.
I can't even drive to Milwaukee for a con without a hotel.
Yeah.
So
Our hotels suck.
I could possibly do the Dells without a hotel, but that's pushing it.
I mean, I drove 2 hours to come here, so,
What's that?
but I'm only here for the
Yes.
day, so.
You're only there on the day. Now, yeah, if going for like the entire weekend, would you want someplace to stay in Madison? Because
Possibly.
it's 3 hours from here to Chicago,
This is true.
and I would be there for the entire duration of there. I would want a hotel room. And once
you
you,
made friends in Chicago, so she's like, I'm just gonna crash over at your place.
I don't have any friends I could cash in that big of a favor with in Chicago.
And I have relatives that just would go like, I'm gonna stay with you guys, okay?
One of these days, I'm going to go to San Diego Comic-Con because I can actually crash with my mother who lives out in Palm Springs.
It will take a couple of years to be able to earn money to actually get the ticket and try to get in.
I'm moving to the other side of town next year. That's going to wipe most of my available cash. And that's just cross-town moving. But, okay.
It's about time. We're 9 minutes left.
Okay. Well, I managed to blather on for time.
That's pretty cool.
Wonderful.
Anything else?
Yeah, anything else? Anybody have anything else to say about that? Comments, speculation, anything?
Question. This new writer's room type thing, like that's new to Doctor Who, but is it new to Chris Chibnall as well?
I don't know.
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure because I don't know
what did
how
he do
he
with
did.
Broadchurch?
I
I'm not
thought
sure
he
how
used it on Broadchurch.
He did use it on Broadchurch?
I thought so. This could be a completely false memory, but I remember talking about that with some of my other friends.
Okay.
But like I said, could have
That's
just made it
maybe
up.
that's how he managed to get Broadchurch to work then.
I've been wondering if a lot of the people that he's gotten into the production to replace people were people he co-opted from Broadchurch.
Because if that's what he's used to, then that might be a good thing.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that this doesn't wind up to be a whole season of the Doctor trying to solve a murder mystery in an obscure British town, because I will have to kill Chibnall.
At least it's not on a railroad.
I'm serious. At that point, the Kickstarter comes for paying money to hire an assassin.
Well, even
She's trapped in Unit the entire season. Yay!
I wouldn't mind a Unit season. Honest to God, if they did a season where they were stuck on Earth with Unit, I could deal with it.
Maybe.
I'd
Depends
enjoy
what they
it.
do with it.
As long as they bring, or no, I'm sorry, they just said no mantras. I was gonna say as long as they bring back the Brigadier Cyberman.
I wouldn't mind them bringing back Kate, but again, Kate Stewart at this point is part of the Moffat era, and as far as I can tell, Chibnall is basically trying. Always bugs me because that always leaves so many little plot threads hanging.
I'm gonna go further back and just start bringing old companions out. I mean, like, here's grown up Ace just for the hell of it.
They've been threatening to do that for years. I'm just like, do it.
Please.
I don't call it a threat. I'm like, yes, bring back Ace.
Please.
No, they said, no, it's like in an interview,
Ace
yeah, we're
was
thinking
awesome.
about bringing back a companion like Ace sometime in the upcoming season. It never happens. That's why it's a threat, because they say they're thinking about it and then they never do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they keep saying they're going to do it and they never do. So I would love to see that. I would have loved to see them bring back what's his name? The guy that played Ian Chesterton while he's still alive.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, since he's still around.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow.
It's like Richard something or other.
Might be a bit of a stretch, but also bring back Jamie.
Fraser Hines. Yeah, you could get him back for a sandwich. Yeah, we need to. We want you to
do
play
a second
Jamie.
Doctor for you, which he does audio adventures.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I could just see them calling him. Yeah, we'd like you to play Jamie for an episode. We have an episode where they go back and meet Jamie. It's like, I'll be there. Let me check my schedule. I'm free.
Could they make up Fraser Hines to look like Patrick Troughton?
No,
No, that would be some extensive makeup.
it's too far away. They could possibly get David Troughton or one of Patrick Troughton's sons to do it. Sean Pertwee in a pinch can look like his father, John Pertwee.
Matter of fact, he did it for Halloween, and he looked amazing in it.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that Sean Pertwee's accent is different from John Pertwee's.
So he has to do some practicing.
Mm-hmm.
They just have one big, doctor adventure where they just grab everybody they could possibly Ken's alive and a few companions. It's like, go have fun.
That's what we expected for the 50th, and instead we got Day of the Doctor. I'm not complaining.
I want some old doctors.
No, I just like Day of the Doctor. I thought it was actually well
like
written
Night of
for
the Doctor
once.
better.
So, looks like we're getting
We're
ready to
getting
close up here.
officially
Is there any other final statements anyone wants to make?
So it's not like Sarah Jane Chronicles.
Oh yeah, we didn't really mention Sarah Jane Chronicles. No, that was a pretty good for, especially for a children's show.
Sarah Jane Adventures?
Adventures, yeah.
It was good for a children's show.
A children's show.
Mhm.
You want the PG, not the G stuff.
Yeah. Well, mind you, that was the purpose of that era, is that you had Doctor Who for the PG, Torchwood for adults, and then Sarah Jane Adventures for the children.
Yeah.
So that was particular focus. They know better than to try to do this with the main show. It's one of the reasons the Slovene, which premiered on Doctor Who, got relegated to the Sarah Jane Adventures, because they worked better there. You realize, Russell T basically went, nope, sorry. My bad, that's more for kids.
At the same time, there are episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures which are amazing, especially for children's television.
Anything well written can be amazing, regardless on who it's intended for.